Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good morning and good afternoon to a few out there. What's going on? It is Thursday, May 18th, 2023, about 11:19 a.m. here along the west coast in the state of California. And let's see what we got for the latest earthquake activity. It looks like a 2.0 over here around the Mediterranean region. One of the latest quakes there on the globe. So what's gone on since yesterday following that 6.4? Well, it looks like a little bit of activity trying to work its way up the California area. Let's see what we have coming in here to the Lake Almanor area. We did see a little 3.7 earlier this morning in the Lake Almanor area. That one coming in about 8 o'clock this morning, shaking things up a little bit out there. Nothing big, but it was reported around the Susanville and of course the Chester area for a little bit of light to moderate shaking. This is all part of a little bit of aftershock sequence here from a 5.5 earthquake that struck, has it been over a week now? No, it's been just about a week or so since that last earthquake struck, the somewhat moderate sized quake here at Lake Almanor. And then of course we've seen quite a bit of aftershock activity, including a 5.2 there the day after the main quake, for a total tally of, let's see, we've got 101 earthquakes of all magnitudes here. And all this is on a newly discovered fault system here underneath the lake. Not a whole lot of information on it, but I'm sure they'll get to it. And as far as the dam goes, the water is nowhere near the dam level at all. So no concern whatsoever when it comes to that potential dam issue. Also a little bit of activity up here on the Cascadia subduction zone. Very shallow earthquake here off the coast, a 1.8 earthquake. And a little bit of activity throughout the state of Washington. Nothing big going on. Crater Lake over here has been seen, this is a Newberry volcano, excuse me. This is outside of the Bend area. Looks like a little 0.6, but in the negative department. All right, let's see what else we have here across the state of California as far as new movement goes. Most of it in the microquake department. Looks like, well, underneath the 3.7 we've seen this morning, it looks like there was another 2.9 prior to that. So continue to watch that up there around Lake Almanor for some potential further movement. Aside from that, 2.7 near Hollister, that one coming in late last night. And for whatever reason, my update video failed to, well, it uploaded, but YouTube pretty much kept it on processing all night. It's still processing. So that's a little odd, but that's okay. It doesn't happen all that often, but when it does, man, it takes its time to process. Ridgecrest, also down south here into the San Jacinto fault zone. A little bit of activity today, nothing big. Also some movement here around the El Centro area. A lot of this, though, from yesterday. Looking into the area of Yellowstone, not a whole lot going on, but we will double check that up into the Wyoming area. Looks like, for the most part, minimal activity. If you guys are wondering what this signature here is, the Parker Peak, Lake Butte, Promontory, showed up pretty much all across the park. This is going to be the 6.4 that struck down here in Guatemala yesterday at that time frame, 1602. So that's got nothing to do with Yellowstone. Just the seismograph stations there do pick up the seismic wave, the P waves and the S waves, so to speak, from the main quake down there. But local activity, very quiet here across Yellowstone National Park. The rest of the country up here looks fairly quiet. We have seen a little bit of aftershock activity here in the Guatemala region, though it's not showing it. Got to go here to the EMSC model. Looks like upstream here a little bit, 3.7 into the Mexico area, a little bit further north here into the Middle America Trench, showing some slight activity kicking up there on the globe. South America, a couple threes down there throughout the Chile area, and it looks like South Sandwich Islands there starting to rumble or shake a little bit down here. northern end. Looks like a 5.1 early this morning, and maybe a 4.7 in there as well. Sometimes the EMSC model will have a different magnitude, making it look like there's two different quakes on here. So one timestamp here is 547, and the other one is 456. So a little bit of difference there in the timestamp, which is located over here. So those are two distinct different quakes. All right, let's see what else we have here across New Zealand and the Tonga area. Latest quake here shows somewhat deep activity here across Fiji. Almost 600 kilometers deep for a 4.5 in the red circle. Looks like prior to that here, about 5 hours ago, we did have another deep earthquake, another 4.5, way down there into the portion of the Tonga Trench. So things are getting ready to move again, I believe, along the Papua New Guinea area and up around the Philippine plate. Before we jump into that, let me check out the GeoNet quakes here real quick. See what we have going on here across New Zealand. Bells are turned off. Okay, making sure. Looks like 3.7 about an hour or so ago. North Island. We did have a 3.9 South Island yesterday, but far as the activity today goes, looks like mostly smaller microquakes aside from that 3.7. There's a 4.2 here. That was just an hour ago. Let me see if I can find that. That's got to be it right here. About 1 hour ago, it showed up fairly strongly, mostly across North and South Island. Well, North Island, it looks like. Let's see here. Yeah, that's going to be the 4.2 showing up on that seismograph signature here. But between that and the activity last night, I'm not seeing any major swarming, any major activity. Look at the earthquake or the volcano drums too. We'll show that 4-pointer. Nothing spectacular going on across any of the volcanoes for now. Let's go back here. Let's see what else we have. So let me bring up Earthquake 3D Globe and see what we have across this area. Still relatively quiet for now. A lot of this activity from earlier this morning and late last night across the Philippine region. But again, with this deeper movement back building here, definitely have to watch for the momentum to further strain this area. Because in general, this plate boundary here is well, obviously a major subduction zone. If we don't see any subsequent activity kicking up upstream, a lot of that momentum will transfer and shift right here around the Filipino plate, and that's where we could see a further uptick in activity as that momentum does build up here quite often in this type of setup. But for now, a couple smaller earthquakes in the area. Up here into the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, looks like we did see a couple more earthquakes here at the northern end, just off the coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula, Russia area, 45 to 47 kilometers deep here in this region. Eastern Afghanistan did see an earthquake early this morning, 137 kilometers deep. And around the Mediterranean area, got 2.0 coming in. That's the latest quake, but generally light earthquake activity around Turkey and the rest of the areas to the west. Let's see here. There's that deeper quake into the Aleutian Trench, 4.6. That was from well, that actually looks like it's from today. If I remember right, we did have another one within this area. We've seen a couple deeper movement quakes here over the last week. There's that 5.4, 4.3, and then the most recent 4.6. All of these are relatively deep within this zone. That's a very good indicator, obviously, of some strain and stress being applied here at the subduction level of the Aleutian Trench with looks like very minimal activity. Of course, we did see a little bit here over the last week. But as far as today's time frame goes, it looks fairly quiet. So watch this region here of the Aleutian Trench. a good section of it there with that deeper movement here for some surface activity. All right, the big island of Hawaii, I don't think we got any changes going on there. Still seeing some movement across Kilauea Volcano and the latest quake of 1.8 off the coast of Pahala. Aside from that, things are just as is for now. Let's see, space weather activity is getting rather interesting here. Let's go ahead and check this out. Crackling here with some M flares. That's definitely a good sign here of elevated solar flaring taking place here from a couple different sunspots that are coming around the bend, so to speak. Coming around the bend. There's a flare right now kicking off. That's going to be this guy up here, that regional sunspot, producing what looks like a M1.1. We did have a couple other M flares overnight and this morning as well from that same sunspot. Also, a sunspot here to the south is looking rather interesting as well. Southeastern limb of the sun. Let's look at the magnetic structure and see what we have going on here. This one's getting a little bit better view here of the complex structure that it harbors. It does look fairly broad, but we will watch this sunspot region right in here for some potential flaring. And of course this one up here, the one that's been producing and crackling with M flares, looks fairly complex. We'll get a better look at that in the days ahead. It looks like these sunspots over here that are getting ready to drift off the northwestern section of the sun are gaining some steam a little bit. Notice the colors here brightening up, getting a little bit more unstable in terms of the structure, magnetic structure. So that is also a potential threat for some flaring as well now. That is gaining a little bit of strength. So continue to watch this. Right now, 95% chance for a C flare, M flare at 25, X flare around 1 or 5%. Excuse me, proton event around 1%. No major solar storms expected, but I bet if these hold steady in the days ahead, we'll be seeing hopefully that be elevated slightly for the aurora forecast. Again, in the days ahead, it does take a little while, of course, for these things to rotate across and in view. But for now, we'll definitely keep an eye on these and watch for some further flaring. Storm Prediction Center here today. That was kind of weird. Looks like a slight risk for some severe weather out in the panhandle there. 2% chance. Looks like main threat's going to be some large hail potentially, 15% chance for that. But overall threat for severe weather minimal at best. Tomorrow looks like a slight risk across Texas and into neighboring states as well. And again, the main threat's probably going to be some hail and wind with a generally small chance for tornado probability at 2% chance. But again, you don't have to have a 40% chance for tornadoes to have a tornado be produced under right conditions here. So 2% chance there for tomorrow across portions of the southern plains and the neighboring states. All right, folks, have a good one. Hopefully this video uploads and updates. Like I say, it's kind of weird that that video didn't go out last night. It's still processing, and it was just generally about a 7 or 8 minute update video. Still processing, so it got hung up in the spider web somewhere of the servers there on the YouTube side, but that's okay, as long as it doesn't happen all the time, right? Have a good one, folks. We'll catch you guys back here a little bit later on this evening, unless something major happens. Take care.